Hi, Paul Crowdell here. This week I had the pleasure of delivering a keynote at Money Live in Copenhagen on open banking and my view of the future of open banking based upon the disruption we're seeing and platformification. The fascinating thing for me from this conference was the discussions that I had subsequently with a number of the participants, quite a few of them, around what do we mean about platforms in this context, and more interestingly, where do we see platforms in relationship to ecosystems and marketplaces. So I thought I'd record this video predominantly to share my point of view and also to drive a continued discussion. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to have a continued discussion and explore this in more detail, because I think this is an evolving space. There are new technologies coming along, there are new business models being developed, and I don't think that the space of platforms has reached its conclusion yet. So if we look at platforms to start with, I see platforms from four generic categories. The first category is technology platforms. Technology platforms being our traditional CRM, ERP type platforms, SAP, you could throw in there the cloud platforms, IBM Cloud, those sort of things. The second broad category is what I call business platforms. Business platforms are where enterprises or companies create a platform to drive competitive advantage. You could see them very much as an arrogance play, right? A dominance play from a specific enterprise or organization. And we could put open banking, as we're talking about banking and finance, you could put open banking into that category from each of the banks. The third category is, in my perspective, industry platforms. Industry platforms are where multiple enterprises or organizations, either within one industry or across multiple industries, will get together to try and solve a common problem, which is not a competitive advantage to them. In banking and finance, we could see this as being solving KYC, AML, as a common platform between the banks and the financial institutions. And we sometimes see business platforms actually emerge and grow up into industry platforms. We've got great examples like TradeLens from IBM and Maersk, or the Food Trust platform that IBM has built. The fourth category is what I would call the mass consumer platforms. That's your Facebooks and LinkedIn and Twitters, etc. I also see two fundamental business models around platforms. The first one being transaction platforms, where you have providers and consumers that will transact with each other. eBay is a great example in that category. And the other one being innovation platforms, where the platform provider would put out APIs, SDKs, and other technology elements to be able to drive innovation on their platform. An example there would be Google Android as a great example. Then we get into the discussion then of where do these platforms sit in relationship to ecosystems and marketplaces, because very often those terms are being intermixed with each other and people are meaning different things or the same things. If we relate this discussion to something that most of us can relate to, being shopping malls, I would say that the platform in itself is the actual physical infrastructure of the shopping mall. It is the building, the car park with it. And it's owned and operated by a single entity. It might be, a number of entities that have got together, but in this case, we'll say a single entity. So that's the platform. Now, the platform is there to enable smaller shops or individuals to set up a shop front to be able to trade and do business. And these shop fronts and little boutiques that are inside of the shopping mall build up to create what I would see as being the marketplace. you would have consumers coming in and taking advantage of these shopping mall shop fronts and restaurants and food courts and whatever else they may be, where they are conducting business with each other, creating that marketplace. And then the third area that we then get into, which is a little bit more complicated, is the ecosystem. And I see the ecosystem as being fundamentally the platform with the marketplace in it, but also the infrastructure that builds up around to support and nurture that platform. So in the case of a shopping mall, you could imagine that the infrastructure will grow. You'll end up with petrol stations, maybe they build a train station near to it. There might be hotels and various other amenities that grow up around the platform, the shopping mall in this case, which then becomes the ecosystem around and on top of that platform. So that's quickly my perspective on this. I'd love to have your input. I'd like to have a great discussion on this. Get back to me, agree with me, disagree with me. Let's continue the discussion. I hope to hear from you. Thanks, bye.